What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Jason.
And you're listening to Liquid Kernedge. I need to apologize to our 5 listeners right now. I do have a hoarse voice. It is from the long weekend. From when I was in Ohio. I woke up and it's been gone ever since. So it's just now finally starting to come back. So I do apologize if it sounds strained today.
Okay, well, 2 things. Luckily, you have a hoarse voice and not a hoarse face.
That's true.
And 2, it comes across like smooth butter, buddy.
I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, I'm
buddy.
sure all the female listeners are woo.
All 3 of them. And
all 3 of them.
Speaking of horse face, I do have the perfect face for radio. So that's very well for me.
Well, I'm glad you made it back safe, my friend.
Yeah, it was a good time. The EP and I had a good time. We drank a lot of bourbon. A lot of bourbon.
Rub it in my face, why don't you?
Cincinnati, for those that do not know geography, is right on the Kentucky border. In fact, you could cross the bridge from our hotel into Kentucky where there was a bourbon festival. And yeah, and it was their first year, so it wasn't the greatest festival, but we found a place that did flights of bourbons and made these craft bourbon cocktails that were just amazing. We felt no pain until the next morning. And then it was a little hair of the dog and you're back on your game.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you need is the hair of the dog. Hair of the dog.
Little hair of the dog. What a cool trip, man. It was great. My brother and I, for those that don't know, got to go take our grandparents' ashes back to their hometown in Hamilton, Ohio. They grew up living next door to each other. So we went and found their houses, went and checked out their high school. It's a real, not the best town now from what we've been told by the locals. Its nickname is Hamiltucky.
Oh,
because it's
wow,
because it's always on the news for something bad. So that's always fun to learn about that. But it was cool. We spread their ashes in their high school front yard because our EP Tom was afraid to stop and do it in the bushes of the house that they grew up in, mostly because there were people watching outside the windows or inside the windows.
Oh,
so I don't blame them. I don't blame them. How's your weekend? You up here in Kingman? You were cleaning out your rental, about to put it on the market, correct?
Yeah, no, we were doing we were doing a few things. We were doing the cleanup stuff, but we were also then doing an assessment of what things we're going to be keeping and bringing down to Phoenix, and what stuff was definitely going to be sold. And I imagine over the next few weeks, we'll be having some pretty large yard sales. And for those out there who are looking for some real quality furniture, Noreen has got some really quality furniture that she'll be selling that you can probably get a pretty good deal on.
All right. So if you want that super secret squirrel Liquid Kernedge deal, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, all at Liquid Kernedge, and just tell us what you're looking for furniture wise. And Jason will find that if they have it. And if they have it, they will see if they can give you. He will see if Noreen will give you a deal for it.
That's right. I will try to use my pull with the I guess the co-pilot of the Liquid Kernedge Edgeworth connection to try to, get you a deal. So
there you go. And if you happen to be leaving or taking that stuff back to Phoenix and you want Tom to help, you can hit him up at Twitter and Instagram, all at liquid_EP. He does help move people in the Valley area. It's a nice gesture he does.
Wow, that's really nice. Yeah, I'm sure he'll make no comments on that.
Oh, I'm sure he won't at all, but he does work for Beer and Pizza, so.
Did you get to see any of your family there while you were there?
We don't actually have any family there anymore. We have some distant cousins, but no, we just pretty much went and did our own thing. We hung out in downtown Cincinnati. We found that bourbon festival. We went to the Cardinals and Bengals over the weekend. That was a lot of fun, man. That was a good time.
Yeah. You had fun at the game?
Yeah, we did. It's weird over there. It's because the whole East Coast is a different mentality. They're in the Eastern time zone, so the early games here in Arizona start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and there they start at 1 in the afternoon. So it's usually when I'm eating breakfast on Sunday morning, I'm watching football. It's brunch. It's whatever. Here, it's like a whole thing. You start partying at 10, but you're not watching football. You're just watching pregame. And then you start partying when the game starts. And when your game is over at 4 o'clock, guess what? There's more football in the afternoons. And the late games don't start till almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think that the Sunday night game here starts at 5:20, so that starts at 8:20 your time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit later than we were used to. And I'll tell you what, man, I crashed hard after that game. It was beautiful weather. It was in the 60s with humidity, so it felt like, and it rained. So it felt like an Arizona monsoon almost when it rained. That's the best way to describe it. Like, it wasn't cold. It was just it was perfect, and it wasn't that bad. So we didn't have to put on our Bengal ponchos we had to buy just in case. So anyone that saw the pictures I posted, I didn't. The poncho is still sealed. I have proof. I will post a picture if you don't believe me. I did not let Bengal orange touch my cardinal red.
Okay, good. Good. You know, it's funny because I think what you and the EP did is like really cool. My father's passed, and I have his ashes because he was cremated. But as you know, because there is an alternate story to my father's past, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't even know where to take his stuff.
Yeah,
I
no, I
wouldn't
get
even
that.
know, where to take his stuff. For those of you who don't know, my father was a great father to me and gave me a wonderful childhood. But in my late 30s, I discovered that he had been living an alternate life. That when he was a younger man in the 60s, he had been a criminal and had gotten convicted of a crime in the Bahamas, bank robbery. And the bank robbery that he did got him a 10-year prison sentence in the Bahamas. And according to the story, he was approached by government officials from the United States. They were looking for people to go to Vietnam. And he was told, hey, look, we'll give you a new identity. If you can get out of this prison in the Bahamas, we will give you a new identity and you can start your life and come back to the United States after your service in Vietnam. So my father at 22 years old did that. Well, now fast forward 44 years, I find out that he had been arrested for identity theft because he was claiming the Social Security checks for this alternative this alternative identity, who was my father for as long as I knew. Well, there was really another person who was my father's name, and they had made a mistake, and he was getting the Social Security benefits from this other person. And that's when I found out that his identity was a totally different person.
Wow. You
So
have told me this story, but it's always intriguing because it's a very in-depth story too. And I know we can't go to detail in the show, at least unless we do a special episode. But
yeah, maybe
it's a
we get
tremendous
drunk.
story.
Maybe we get drunk and do a special episode. But the hard part is that I went through 38 years of life with an understanding of my father that was then totally turned on its head when I found out that everything that I thought I knew about him, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And so now I look at it, and if I were to try to do the same kind of thing where we take the ashes and send them, to some place to spread them, I got to be honest, I wouldn't even know where to go.
Well, if I could give my opinion, what you knew of your father was he was a big Seahawks fan.
Yes.
He loved the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
And of all the things you knew that he loved, I think he would want you to spread the ashes in the places that you knew he loved and that he told you. Because I'm sure what he told you about that part of his life was in fact true.
Yeah, I mean, how about this? Like, his name is different, right? His legal name is different than my name, my last name. But I've never had to switch my identity because I have a birth certificate with that identity. I mean, that's my name. That's my name. That's how I'm registered. But the idea that the life that up until I was born and up until I found out that his name was different, all of that I could verify. Like, he loved the Northwest, he loved the Seahawks, he lived in Alaska. Everything that I can verify, he did. But everything prior to that is not true. Like, my understanding of his previous life before his name change, you're right, is not. So I'd probably have to go up to Seattle, go to the stadium and spread the ashes there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it would be kind of cool to spread the ashes in Vietnam, go to Vietnam somewhere and spread some of his ashes. Because, for those of you who cremate someone, you get pretty big amount of ashes, so you could spread them out over different places if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
which is what we did with our grandparents too.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would love to know if anyone else has like a family secret like that, where you find out later in life that what you had anticipated or what you thought your life was not what it was.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. It's along our trip to Cincinnati, and I'll talk about this because I know our family's not going to listen to this.
We can change the names to protect the guilty or whatever.
Right. It's we had a very valuable family heirloom that my great grandpa had, and I'll try to be as descriptive but as vague as possible to protect the innocent. There was a very valuable trinket that was from our homeland of Cincinnati in the Ohio area that was passed on to my great grandma that my aunt received and was supposed to pass on to me at some point. Along the way, she ran into some financial trouble and sold said item, and told my brother and I that it was sold to a museum in Cincinnati, and also told my parents this, thinking that we would never go to Cincinnati, let alone this museum. So, as it were, Tom and I had the time this weekend, and we're right down the street from the museum. So we said, "Hey, let's go check it out." And we walked into there, and we were talking to the guy buying his tickets, and I told him the story. He's like, "Yeah, that's not true. We don't buy these items."
Oh, wow.
I'm like, huh?
Oh,
so and I've always got high blood pressure as it is, but my blood boiled at that because I don't like liars in the first place.
Yeah,
but I don't like people that lie, and they're also uber religious, because that just there's a certain hypocrisy with that.
Do you think that when a family member, like, I never felt that my dad, quote, lied, unquote, to me, but in essence, he whipped me up a story that he kept for 44 years. I mean, he was an alternative personality for 44 years. So for the majority, well, for all of my life, it was a lie. Do you think that is a lie, or do you think it's just that's your personal business and you don't owe me a truth?
If she just would have said the truth, it would have been one thing. If it was just, hey, if it's a financial hardship and you need to sell it, I get it. Give someone in the family a chance to buy it, at least so it stays in the family.
Yeah, I do agree with you there that, but why they lied about where they sold it. I guess they never thought that you would come to the area to be able to back it up or to follow up with it.
Exactly. I assume that they thought that we would never even think about going to the area. And, so much for the fact that when my grandparents did pass, they insisted that we put them in the VA cemetery in Prescott, where they did not want to be, but we acquiesced.
Oh,
so
okay.
Part of them is there. Part of them is now in their hometown where they grew up, and a part of them will be in a part of town here where they lived for 40 years. So we are getting them to where they wanted to be. It's just taking some extra time.
Yeah.
Wow. Which that works out, though, because in our family, and I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, we've always had someone's cremated remains in someone's closet for at least 40 years. It's a family tradition.
Yeah.
Have I mentioned that before?
I don't know if you've mentioned it, but I know that my father's remains are in a nice little container. But they've really just I've sealed it so that, it doesn't break open. But it just has come with me wherever I go.
Yeah.
And at some point it would be probably nice to do something special with it. I know that my mom and I both took a portion of the ashes and made they can make like little not a paperweight, but little displays. Like my mom made me a pewter heart that has like a container with some of the ashes in it. So it's like a, I don't want to say a paperweight, but it sits on your desk.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got herself a little jewel made out of some of the ash. You know how they can compress it and make like fake jewelry out of it?
Yeah.
So she has a little pendant, like an opal looking pendant that she has to kind of keep in the hearts. But it would be kind of cool to take it somewhere and do something, take my dad to something, like on a trip like you guys did.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. And if you need something to go with you, my friend, I would be happy to go with you to Seattle and or Vietnam.
Oh, yeah. Both. Well, yeah. Heck, hey, we'll get a podcast in each country. That'd be good.
Absolutely. We have listeners in Vietnam anyway. At least people have listened to us from Vietnam. So that'd be
How
interesting.
much? How much of a forgiveness of a lie, like a family secret, is based on the respect that you have for that person?
I think it's huge. I think if you don't respect the person, it depends on the level of the lie. You know?
Like now, because I will say this, that in your example, that is a level that I don't think it would be very difficult for me to forgive.
Yeah,
Because not to mention, did you lie about what you did with the item, but you cheapened or took away the value. That's not a monetary value. That's a family heirloom, or that's something that belongs to our family that you just totally devalued by selling it, no matter what price you got for it. I mean,
yeah.
that's a pretty bad betrayal. What my father did by keeping the secret of his true identity, I haven't ever been angry or upset with him that
Yeah,
he
yeah.
did that.
But at a certain point, though, what was your dad's first name?
His real first name is Gerald.
What about no to you?
Oh, Thomas.
So isn't his true identity after a certain point Thomas Edgeworth? I mean, that's who he was to you. So
Well, so it's weird. So my mom always called him Tom, like, because she knew him for 40 years as Tom. So she always called him Tom. I was fortunate because I always called him Dad.
yeah.
But he would refer to himself, like when he signed an email or anything, he always referred to him as GL Tracy. So he had changed his name back to his original, um, after it all came out and he served his time in prison. He changed his name he always went by GL Tracy the rest of his life.
Huh. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So but I've never been mad. I've never been
No, well,
angry
because
that he
that
did
doesn't
that.
really affect anything because all the memories with you are still the same. All the things that you knew him as were Thomas Edgeworth, you know?
But I've heard stories of people going batshit crazy over things like this.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like getting really upset, like, how could you lie to me about who you were?
yeah,
And
but if they're doing that while while if they're actively doing something deceitful while you're alive and a part of their life, I can get that. But
okay.
that'll happen before you were even born.
Yeah.
You can't be mad at that.
I think also too, I'm not mad because it really didn't affect me. Like, I mean, it affected me because he spent a year in prison, because of what he did, and that bothered me, but not. It didn't hurt me. It just bothered me that he had to spend time in prison.
Yeah, but that was before you were born, though. Still, so it's still.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. So once he got in trouble for getting the Social Security based on the other person who was alive,
Mhm.
his Social Security, they got him for identity theft under the
Oh,
Patriot Act.
oh,
Um, and so he had to serve. His lawyer got him. He had to serve 13 months in a federal prison.
oh! Wow. So this was before
Yeah,
he passed. Okay.
yeah. So he was in prison. Yeah. So he got convicted in the Bahamas in the 60s, escaped, lived the life for 40 plus years, then got in trouble on this issue for identity theft, and then served a 13 months for that crime of identity theft.
Wow.
But
That's
by that
nuts,
time,
man.
he
I
yeah
didn't realize you spent time in prison
oh
after the
yeah,
fact,
yeah.
though, too. Yeah.
He was in Long Beach. They have a federal prison there for 13 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's 65 or 66-year-old man, so it wasn't like he was a dangerous criminal, but still, he had to serve time in prison. And I remember all throughout my childhood, he always joked, "Man, if I ever got arrested, it'd be great. You have 3 square meals and TV." He got out and said, "Oh man, I will never do anything bad again. Prison sucks."
Well, they don't want it to be fun. That way, you don't want to go back. You know.
Well, and I'm sure that once you get in there, it's nothing. I mean, your life is over for that time.
Oh
People,
yeah.
even criminals, lifelong criminals, don't want to be in prison. They recognize probably they have to be in prison because they're dangerous, but they don't want to do it.
What's that joke Dean used to tell about prison? It's a guy gets sentenced to prison, and first day in his cell, his big old cellmate comes up to him, looks at him, and says, "You want to be the husband of the wife?"
Yeah.
And the guy says, huh, well, I know what happens if I'm the wife, so I'm going to be the husband. And the guy says, good, come over and suck your wife's dick. And
That's right. Number 75, man. That's
75,
beautiful.
right?
Oh,
Oh, it's
God.
one of the classics.
Yeah.
But, it's a secret like that I don't think really it doesn't affect your relationship with him because uh, most of that stuff that happened, it all happened before your time. And when he was raising you, he had basically taken on that new identity and stayed with that new identity. If he was flip flopping or had a secret life while you were in his life, yeah, I'd say there's probably some reason to be angry, but I don't think there's really that big of a deal to be that angry right now, you know?
Well, I think about it because one time I did ask him, I said, Dad, what I'm amazed at is how in your mind you could convince yourself and everyone else that you were this other person. I mean, it's mind boggling to me that he was able to do it for as long as he could do it. So, Scott, here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow, I want you to go out and no longer be Scott Kern. Make up some name, Michael Smith, and try to live a life and convince other people that your name is Michael Smith. I asked him, I said, how did you do that? Like, take your life and just stop it from that moment and be someone else. He says, you just turn your mind on and that's what you do. And he got to the point where he was so good at it. But there was always times in our lives where I would ask him a question about his story of his life, like what he told me. And every time I started getting a little closer and asking questions about, tell me about this event that happened, he would shut it off real quick. So even at that point, you could tell that he was protecting something, but I didn't know it until after I found out that he was protecting something.
Well, it's the age-old saying, if you tell the truth, you tell the truth once. If you tell a lie, you got to tell that lie the rest of your life, and you got to keep that straight. And that's hard, man.
Yeah,
that's hard.
Yeah.
And now to go back to your challenge, I really can't where I live because I think everybody knows my name. Literally everybody knows my name. So next time we come to Phoenix, we go to Vegas. Absolutely, I will take on a new persona for a scientific research just to see what happens.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see that. And maybe you said it best. Maybe when a family secret is most damaging is when it has a negative impact on you.
Yeah.
Like I hear about those people that find out for the first time that they were adopted. Like they get told that they were adopted or they find out later in life that they were adopted. I could see why that would be upsetting because it's like, well, wait a minute. That's a pretty big thing against me personally.
Well, yeah, and there's pros and cons for something like adoption, but I circle back to the case that my brother and I discovered over the weekend. It's one of those you spend your life thinking a certain level of respect for a person, and then to find out the truth of something that's very inconsequential in the big scheme of things, And I think that's what bugs me the most is if you would come out and said something sooner, maybe like I said, the family could have stepped in and done something, but you went the opposite route. And now, like, I don't talk to a lot of my family as it is. I don't really care if I do or not. This doesn't make me want to go out and do it again,
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a violation on so many levels. I mean, it was earmarked for you, so you stole something that wasn't yours. Not you. I'm sorry. The person stole something that wasn't yours.
Well, it was there. It was, and that's my dad and I are going back and forth, and it was theirs. They were just supposed to pass it on to me eventually. So you can do that what you want, while you're in possession of it, but don't lie about it.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it just goes to show you why it was left to you because they obviously didn't care about the value from a personal connection level. They only look at it as something that was worth money to them.
I think the part that bugs me about it the most is that we were both the biggest baseball fans in the family. I've watched Ken Burns baseball numerous times. Well, I guess I gave away what it was, but we're both the biggest fans of it. And what bugs me the most is there were pictures of my great grandpa with those players.
Yeah.
Wow. With people that are a part of everything. And I don't know where those are at anymore. And to me, that was more important because it told the story of the bigger picture. And that's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard. And I think you said it best. It, even though it's tough sometimes to tell the truth in the whole scheme of things, it's easier to tell the truth because most people have it in their heart to forgive the truth. No matter
Yeah.
how unpleasant it is, they have, in most cases, they can understand the truth and they may not like it, but they can say, hey, but you at least respect me enough to be honest with
Yeah.
me about it. And frankly, I have to admit, if I had asked my dad at some point, hey, are you living an alternative life? Or, I mean, I have a suspicion that you're not who you say you are. It would have been hurtful. He said, oh, no, I am. And then found out that I was right and he was lying
See,
to me.
but then again, there's the context of it. He was never living that alternative life when he was raising you. It's one thing if he was Jerry, the minute you went to school and did whatever he had to do for a job or whatever the government had him doing, and then the minute you got home from school at night, he was Thomas Edgeworth again.
Yeah.
That's where the violation of trust is. If
Yeah.
you asked him now, at any point in time, are you living an alternative life? The answer is no, because he's not. At that point in time, he was Thomas Edgeworth.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, no matter what lie is told, no matter what lie in life is told, the person that you know is the person that you know.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, it's very hard to hide who a person is. And if they've done good things for you in your life and they've loved you and respected you and been there for you, my dad could have done a lot of things and lied to me about it. And I would have said, I love you, Dad. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, their lies that do negative and hurtful things say a lot about them too.
Absolutely. And I guess it'll come. It's all a character thing on both
Yeah.
both ends of the spectrum. If you can't get past that, then and obviously you're very hurt. You need to find a way to work through that, or be able to walk away from the whole thing altogether.
Yeah. I will say this, Scott, this podcast that between you and me, we've learned a lot about each other over 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you pretty much know who I am. My name
As
is
far as I
Jason
know, I
Edwards.
know who you are. Yes.
Yeah. My name is Jason Edwards too. So don't worry about that.
Yes. And I will not wear it out. I promise. Have you ever come across a deep, dark family secret that's changed your perception on somebody? Tell us your story. You don't have to name names. Just tell us the story in general and keep it vague. And we want to hear about it and talk to you about it. Hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, all at Liquid Kernedge. Oh, shit. I almost forgot to tell you. We finally got retweeted by Ron Wolfley this weekend.
No way.
Yes. And he even talked back for a second.
You put something on Twitter for the Cardinal game and he retweeted it?
Yeah, man. We were right down there. We were right behind the Cardinal bench, and he was down there in pregame talking to people. And I figured, fuck, man, here's my chance. So I was gonna yell his name out, but that seemed a little stalkerish, a little creepy.
Yeah.
It's weird for a grown man to yell the grown man's name out in the football field like that.
I got you.
So I just figured, hey man, I'll tweet it. And I was very honest that, hey, Liquid Kernedge came out to Cincinnati to see the Cardinals play the Bengals. It would be a lot cooler if we could hear our hometown announcers, Ron Wolfley and Dave Pash, calling today's game. Just something like this, something very cool. He liked it, retweeted it, responded to it. So hey, I'm calling that progress on the conquest of getting him on our show here at some point.
It's going to happen. It will happen.
Yes, I do agree. In fact, when I get everything settled down, I'm going to go back and reply to that tweet and hopefully see if we can't snag it here in the next couple of weeks and just keep pecking away.
I love it.
Oh, and don't forget to hit up our EP in Instagram and Twitter, all at liquid_EP. Show him some love. I think we kind of hurt his feelings last week. I forget what we said, but I'm sure it was well within line. But hit him up and give him some love. He hung tough this weekend. He drank a lot more bourbon than I thought he would. And we had a good time. So it was cool.
That's awesome, man.
So that's Jason, go ahead and take us home.
All right. Hey, everyone, thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.